Hello, young scientists. Welcome to Super Kid Duo. Today, we're going on a tiny adventure, so tiny, you'll need a microscope to see it. Welcome to the world of microorganisms. Let's zoom in and explore what they are, where we find them, and how they affect our lives, in both good and bad ways.
So you found an old slice of bread in the back of your cupboard. You bring it to school to show your friends. At first they laugh because it looks so weird. Then you tell them you think it might be moldy. Your friends run away screaming. Maybe you should have started the day with a science lesson instead. Hey, why don't you join me? I'm Bill Nye the Science Guy, and this is Bill Nye Saves the Day. Let's learn about microorganisms. Microorganisms, or microbes, are tiny creatures that are everywhere. They're in the air you breathe, the water you drink, the soil beneath your feet, and even inside your body. Yeah, that's right. You have microbes living inside of you right now. But despite the fact that microbes are literally a part of you, you probably don't notice them. That's because most microbes are microscopic, meaning you need a microscope to see them. To understand why this is important, let's dive into the science. You see, everything around you is made up of cells. Cells are the basic unit of life. All living things are made of one or more cells, and cells can come in all shapes and sizes. A paramecium is a type of microorganism called a protozoan. Paramecium are single-celled organisms, meaning they're made up of just one cell. But there are also multicellular organisms, like you and me. That means we're made up of many cells. Most cells are way too big to see without a microscope. But don't worry, you still have a good eye. Check out this image of a mushroom. Do you see anything interesting about it? How about now? How about now? That's right, its size matters. The size of an object determines whether or not you can see it. If something is larger than the smallest thing you can see, then you can see it. That means the reason you can't see most cells is because they're smaller than the smallest thing you can see. For example, you can see this soccer ball, but you can't see the atoms that make it up. Atoms are much smaller. Likewise, you can see a paramecium if you have a microscope that magnifies it enough to be bigger than the smallest thing you can see. And that's why we call these tiny organisms microorganisms. Now let's think about the size of objects compared to the size of a picture of those objects. Take this soccer ball. It's fairly large, so its picture will be fairly large too. But now, let's shrink the soccer ball down to the size of an atom. See how its picture is much smaller. That's kind of like what happens to microorganisms. When we look at them under a microscope, the lenses magnify the microorganism to make it appear larger than the smallest thing you can see. But different microscopes magnify things to different sizes. That's why a scientist may use a powerful microscope to look at a tiny microorganism, while a less powerful microscope could be used to look at a cell from a thin slice of onion. So if you want to be a real scientist, you need to understand how to describe the size of objects that you see under a microscope. Scientists measure length, width, and height, just like you did in math class. But since microorganisms are so tiny, scientists use a special unit of measurement, millimeters. 1 millimeter is equal to 1/1000th of a meter, or about the width of a sesame seed. The paramecium is about 40 millimeters long. Compare that to the soccer ball, which is thousands of times larger. So remember, the next time someone says an object is the size of a microorganism, ask them what kind of microorganism. There are so many different ones, and since microorganisms are so small, they're everywhere. Right now, there are millions of them floating in the air you breathe, swimming in the water you drink, and growing on the food you eat. And there are even more growing inside you. That's because you have trillions of cells, and each of your cells needs nourishment to survive. Microorganisms can give you the nourishment you need, like the bacteria in your gut. These bacteria help you digest food and absorb nutrients. In exchange, you give them a cozy place to live and food to eat, so you and your microbes have a mutually beneficial relationship called symbiosis. But not all microorganisms are friendly. Some can actually make you sick. Let's look at Salmonella as an example. Salmonella are bacteria that live in the intestines of animals. When animals poop, the Salmonella poop out too. If you eat food that's been contaminated by animal poop, you can get sick with something called salmonellosis. Symptoms include diarrhea, fever, and stomach cramps. Yum! But there's nothing a little bit of knowledge can't fix. That's why it's important to practice good hygiene. You already know a lot about hygiene. After all, your mom and dad have probably reminded you to wash your hands before dinner so many times you're practically an expert. But here are some extra tips. Don't share personal items with others. That includes things like toothbrushes, towels, and clothing. Always wash fruits and vegetables before you eat them. Cook meat thoroughly to kill potentially harmful microbes. And don't leave food out for too long. Bacteria can double in number every 20 minutes. Imagine that. So if you leave food out in the open, it won't be long before you have a whole army of hungry microbes, ready to feast on your leftovers. Fortunately, there are some easy ways to stop microbes from growing on your food. First, store perishable foods in the refrigerator. The cold temperature slows down the growth of most microbes. Second, you can use a microwave oven to heat your food. Microwaves are a type of energy that can be used to kill microbes. Third, you can dehydrate food by removing the water. Water is essential for the survival of most microbes. So if you take away the water, the microbes will eventually die. And fourth, you can use chemicals called preservatives to kill microbes. For example, pickling vegetables in vinegar and salt is a way of preserving them so they last longer. Can you think of other examples of preserved foods? Preserving food isn't the only way humans interact with microorganisms. Microbes are also used to make lots of products that people use every day. For example, yeast is a type of microorganism that's used to make bread rise and give it a nice fluffy texture. But wait, how does it do that? Well, yeast is actually a type of fungus, and like all living things, it needs food to survive. The sugars in bread are the perfect meal for yeast. As the yeast eats the sugars, it releases carbon dioxide gas as a waste product. The gas fills up small holes in the bread dough, causing it to expand and rise. That is, until the heat from the oven causes the gas bubbles to pop. Next time you eat a slice of bread, take a moment to thank the yeast for its hard work. Humans also have a symbiotic relationship with bacteria. Certain types of bacteria live in the soil and help turn over nutrients in the dead bodies of plants and animals. These nutrients, like nitrogen and phosphorus, are then available for plants to use. So these bacteria help make sure there's plenty of nutrition available for the plants you eat. And yes, even though they make you sick sometimes, bacteria can be good for you. For example, E. coli is a type of bacteria that lives in your intestines. E. coli helps you digest food and produce vitamins. In fact, there are over 100 trillion bacteria in your digestive system, and they help you break down foods you couldn't digest otherwise. And remember that stuff you saw through your microscope? It was probably surrounded by millions of other microorganisms. That's because microorganisms are everywhere, even on you right now. There are probably dozens of different kinds of microorganisms on your skin. And no matter where you go, you take those microorganisms with you. Every time you touch something, some of your microbes get left behind, and some of the microbes from whatever you touched get picked up by you. That's why it's so important to wash your hands before eating, because you could transfer harmful microbes to your food. And although some microbes can make you sick, others can make you healthy. Microbes are used to make antibiotics like penicillin. Penicillin is used to fight bacterial infections. So if you or someone you love gets sick from bacteria, an antibiotic like penicillin could help. So you see, microbes are all around us. They can make us sick, and they can make us well. They can help us make yummy foods, and they can help decompose dead stuff, so that nutrients can be reused again. Microbes are so small, but they have a big impact on our lives. It's been amazing to learn with you today, but we've got to wrap things up. Before we go, let's do a quick recap. Microorganisms are tiny living things. They're everywhere, and there are tons of different types. If you want to be a real scientist, remember to always consider scale. Microorganisms are really small, so you need powerful tools to study them. Good hygiene practices can prevent harmful microorganisms from making you sick. Humans have symbiotic relationships with certain microorganisms that can help us preserve food and even make medicines. And finally, microorganisms are all around us, so we should always be aware of how we interact with them. Thanks for watching, and thanks for being awesome. I'll see you next time. Bye.